Greetings and salutations. I'm Gil.
And I'm Gil, and this is Strategic Prepper.
Welcome. So today we are going to look at some initial security preparations that Junior and I are taking for the properties that we're moving into. He's going to take a look at basically a community review, and I'm going to take a look at a perimeter review and talk about some property specific. He's going to talk about neighborhood specific things. So before we get into this, we talk every so often about our PDFs, and we have upgraded how you can get access to those. Go to our website, strategic-prepper.com, and our PDFs are now in the merchandise section, so you can just order those. They're free of charge, but as you go through that process, you'll be able to download them. No need to wait for me to send them to you. You can get them automatically. Also, if you've not had a chance to take a look at our video on building your first Get Home bag, we have a drawing for that bag, and that drawing is on Labor Day 2021, so first Monday of September. So to enter that, watch that video, which is here, and watch that video, and at the end it'll tell you how to get enrolled in that drawing so that that bag and that kit could be yours. All right, so enough of that. Let's get into the discussion, and here's Gil. All right, so Gil, we are on the way to the property that you made an offer to. We are going to check the neighborhood again and just get a different view. And tell us about where we're heading right now.
So, I mean, we're basically just doing like an area study, which I started doing on Google Maps. Looking at surrounding properties and whatnot, but basically we're just driving around the area, starting at the property and then kind of moving out, and then looking at the properties, what kind of houses are they, how well kept up are they, any signs of trouble, stuff like that, pretty much. Just trying to get an idea for the neighborhood. And I've been talking to people at work about this area, so there's people who are familiar with this area, and so basically just doing all that kind of stuff before we finalize everything.
Well, and you're doing this because you know that it's very important for security to understand what's happening beyond the property line.
Yeah, there's certain things you could fix and deal with security-wise, and certain things you can't. And so, yeah, if you happen to buy a house that's in a really rough area, you're going to have a hard time versus buying a house that's in a good area. Obviously, you're starting ahead, so having an understanding of that. And yeah, you might buy a house that's in a, just because there are problems wouldn't stop me from buying a house necessarily, but I have to understand what's going on basically, and have a plan in my head, and are these things I'm willing to deal with, and what am I going to do about it, and kind of weigh all of that, versus buying a house, putting an offer in, you know, spending all the money and planning everything, and then realizing I really put myself in a bad spot. It's not too late, but kind of is at that point. This will be my second time coming to the area, so everything looks pretty good so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any overt signs of trouble here, but I did the same thing for my property.
Yeah.
Checked the area, and it's not the wealthiest area, but that by itself is not a problem. Yeah, it's important to know the neighborhood that you're moving into.
Yeah, you know, and I've talked to some guys at work, and one guy asked a friend who said, oh, it's kind of a rough area, drugs and whatnot. Then I've talked to some other guys, you know, because you're going to have a certain level of problems in the country, no matter where you're at. And, you know, sometimes a couple things happen, and then certain people gain a perception about an area that's not really true. You just maybe had a couple incidents, but it doesn't mean the area's bad, per se. So I'll talk to some other guys. One of them who works in the adjacent county for the emergency services, and he hasn't heard any issues. I've talked to some other guys at work who are also familiar with the area, and they said, no, it's not a bad area. It's just, you know, you do have some lower income country folk in the area, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, you also could check with the county sheriff.
Yeah, and I'll plan on doing that too.
Yeah, see what kind of police reports they've had for the area.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we're relatively close to the house. So, the road that's off the road that the house is on, you know, we're seeing a lot of mobile homes, a lot of older rundown properties, stuff in the front yards and whatnot, which by itself is not an issue, right? It may not look pleasant, but Many times, like this one dude's got a tractor. Many times it's just people who are lower income and they're in the country, so they're not really too worried about it. So that by itself is not an issue, right? But we're looking for there's any kind of signs of, so now we're closer, and so you can see closer, these are actual houses that people take good care of. So overall, nothing I'm too worried about, right? You look for signs of whether it's criminal activity or anything like that, and so just having older rundown properties doesn't necessarily pose a problem. Yeah, so it'd be off there, and so you see there's a gate right there.
Yep.
And then the two properties split, so that's the neighbor, and then the driveway over there. Yeah, I mean, you can tell me it's pretty secluded. I mean, you're not coming here unless you live here. There's no through traffic.
It is definitely secluded.
There's a gate right there and a culvert, so you see that culvert in the ditch. If you're trying to drive a vehicle, you kind of have to go through that gate. So if the gate's reinforced, it could be very difficult to drive a vehicle through, unless you, which, I mean, that's not too, you could figure out, you could get across if you really wanted to, but.
So you're not going to see bands of marauders from the city out here?
Unlikely. You'd have to
But you might have local troublemakers that would know the area.
And that would be the issue, is I see two main issues with that, or two main threats, right? So you might have local people, one driving up via vehicle, so these two driveways meet at this central choke point, which has got a gate that I could reinforce. And then I'm thinking about putting two gates on my driveway, one at the beginning and then one at the end. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I might. I'm probably at a minimum going to put a sensor system in the bushes up front here, so when a vehicle drive past, there's a little chime that goes off at the house to where I know people are here. The nice thing is, if you're vehicle borne, there's only one way in, one way out, so there's a nice funnel that you have to come through. It makes it easier for me to defend. Then the other issue would be locals coming from surrounding areas on foot, right? Because there's a lot of woods. And so if they really want to cause trouble, that's probably what they're going to do. But
all right, it looks like good potential. It's securable.
Yeah.
Unlike our last properties, yours and mine.
Yeah, the last one would have been a nightmare if there was social unrest. That would have been tough. But this here, so people from the city, within nearby suburbs, there's just too much between me and them. They're probably not making it down here. Right. And then so the other thing too is, you look at like the lockdowns. Government authorities can only control so much. They only have so much manpower, so they'll concentrate it in the cities and suburbs. So that's the other consideration too, is let's say there's crazy lockdowns and things get even worse, and you have Australia's deploying the military to enforce lockdowns, right? They're unarmed, whatever, but they're deploying the military. So yeah, you get your local sheriff's office in armored vehicles that tell you, right, they're forcing you to stay in your houses or else, or let's say things get worse with the next election or whatever. They're going to focus on those. They're probably not coming out here. They don't have the people. And, so you'd have to, I mean, you saw the drive, right? We're a decent ways off the highway.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a while to get here. They're not going to care as much about the people out here. They're not going to be able to control the people out here.
Sheriff is not going to come and pay you a visit unless you're causing trouble.
Yeah. And I feel like in most of these kind of areas, the local law enforcement sheriffs are actually more reasonable. They know people. They're not interested like in the bigger city agencies. They're not really interested in controlling you. They're just trying to keep the peace. So.
All right. Well, I think you have I think you've done a pretty good assessment here, and obviously once you get settled in, you're going to fine tune the security. And tighten it, and like you said, the gates, and then work on the house, and
and once we get the keys, of course, we'll be doing more videos and all that.
Right.
Right now, I can't roll up to the property because we haven't even done the home inspection yet, so it'd be kind of weird if I showed up at his house.
All right, good morning, friends. Good morning. I am at the property, and today I'm going to be working on the fence line. This fence goes around the whole perimeter, and I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but you can see the fence, and it's generally up, but there's spots where it is down. or damage. So 2 goals today, and that is to make sure the fence is in good condition and lift it up, and the other is to make sure I have access to the fence so I can do regular inspections. As you can see, it gets a little thick over there, so I'm just doing a preliminary walkthrough. I'll probably clean it up better as we go on, but I got my loppers and I will walk through and clean this up. So yeah, so this is the end right here. Actually, it's laying down a little bit. Yeah, there's that pole right here. Oh crap, I just grabbed it. There's the pole, gotta straighten that up. And once the gate comes in, I will tie that to the edge of the gate so that one can't just walk around easily. I'm also going to be looking for raspberry bushes because there's quite a few raspberries here, and I will try to protect them. The end goal here is to plant thorn bushes, particularly if they bear food like raspberries, along the entire perimeter on the inside, just as an added deterrent. Anyway, that's what I got going on today, and I'll keep you up to date. Thanks. All right, I am deep in the woods, and a lot of the fence is decent, just needs to be lifted up a little bit, but there are a couple of spots I already have found where trees have fallen across the fence line, and I will have to cut those trees up and raise the fence. So I've got some work ahead of me, but once I get a little bit away from the home site, things have opened up quite a bit, and it's pretty easy to move around in here, but it's looking pretty decent. I'm able to find the fence. A couple of spots I couldn't find it. I'm going to have to put new fence up, but most of the fence looks like this, so it's going well. All right, here's my stream. It's on the property, not huge. In this video, we're talking about security, but water is one important aspect of security. In the ancient and the Middle Ages, with the days of castles, it was very important for a castle or a fortification to have a water source inside the walls. So having a water source is important, and you see I've got that stream. But what I also have here is a well, and this is going to have to be cleaned up a little bit. Maybe a roof added to this well house and a door. But the well is there, and water is in the well. So I've got the stream, and I've got the well, and also, if you take a look, here's another look at the structure. So the walls are actually in pretty decent shape. It will not take much to turn this into a proper well house. All right, so we've got the stream, which is actually intermittent. There's times when it is really down to almost nothing, or nothing if you don't get enough rain. I've got this well, and if we take a look here, we'll see that the city people have come in to install my water meter, and now my water meter is installed. So I've got 3 sources of water. One is public water, and if that were to fail, I have got the well, which I will have to set up, and I've got the stream, which I will have to figure out a way to collect that, like as in a pond. So, all right, so what we covered today is initial assessment of a property for security purposes, and you saw Junior doing a perimeter check, community check. Very important to understand where your risks lie outside the perimeter. And we also saw on my property, checking the fence line. There's still some work to do, but we do have the fence mostly intact. There are 2 spots, I didn't catch them on the video, where it looks like the fence had been cut intentionally, and maybe some looks like some off-road vehicle traffic. So we're going to have to fix that. We'll come up with a way to fix that pretty good. So that's the beginning of our security measures, looking at the community, the neighborhood, and looking at the fence line itself. In future videos, we're going to bring that security effort inside the property. All right, so glad you could join us, and keep an eye out for our future videos. Stay safe and stay prepared.